We're going to be talking about what makes risk so scary, how to get better at taking risk, and also how to minimize risk so that you don't fail. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Derek, aka Flipping a House, and we like to talk about real estate, financial literacy, and just how to get better around here. So if you're new, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on that post notification because I drop weekly videos. But today we're going to be talking about a very important topic that affects every aspect of your life, and that is risk. How to get better at taking risk, and also how to minimize risk so that you don't fail. Now, I like to keep things simple around here, so let's start with the actual definition of risk. So according to the dictionary, risk is a noun, and it's also a situation involving exposure to danger. Now, what I love about this is it's a very broad statement, and I think a lot of us have honestly been conditioned to think risk is a bad thing, right? We hear danger, we get scared, and we want to quit or run away, right? Our bodies are designed for fight or flight, meaning that if something is to happen or pop off, are we going to run towards it or run away from it? And a lot of people, when they hear risk, they want to run away. So everybody's outlook on risk is going to be different. For me, I'm a real estate investor. I've also been an entrepreneur for almost 6 years now. So I've incurred and incur daily a lot of risk. It doesn't matter if it's on a small scale or a big scale. Now, I know everyone might not have that much exposure to risk, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to make it more simple for you guys to understand, and so you can make decisions that will actually change your whole trajectory of your life. And I actually want to take this moment to give you guys a backstory. If you haven't watched any podcasts or you know nothing about me, basically when I was 19 years old, I packed up my car with $1,000 and I moved from my small town in Tennessee of 10,000 people to a city like Houston who has like 5 million plus people. I think we're reaching like 7 million by 2022 or so they project. But my point being is my environment changed completely. Now, I know this may not seem like a big deal, and for most that would be very scary, but where I lived and what I wanted out of life, I knew that I needed more, and to get to that point I was going to have to take on risk. Now, here's the funny thing about life and risk, and it really starts with mindset. As humans, we're going to have to incur risk, as I mentioned before. Now, risk looks completely different, but the main point is you're going to have to face it. Risk could mean you work a job for 40 years and you think that you're going to retire, and then your job fires you and you lose your pension. Or that could mean that you move into an area, you work for an entrepreneur, nothing's guaranteed, right? But for me at that time, the biggest risk was staying in the exact same place that I'd been my whole life. I had seen where older people ended up, and I didn't want that outcome. And I knew by putting myself in an unpredictable situation that had a lot more people, a lot more opportunities, that I would have a better chance at being successful, which is all I ever wanted for my life. Now, note, success is going to look a lot different for everybody, but for me, that meant freedom, money, nice things, just things that I didn't necessarily grow up with. I didn't have a bad upbringing. It's just I lived a pretty middle-class life with a single mom, and we had to make a lot of sacrifices as a kid. Now, I'm very thankful for those situations because it put me in the position that I'm in today, but not everybody is going to have that much risk on the table. But I want to take this moment to move the conversation from myself to risk and why you're really here. See, risk is going to have to be taken. It doesn't matter if you live the same life for the rest of your years and then you have a bunch of regret. That's very risky. Or working a job for 40 years and then you get fired before you're supposed to get your retirement. That's very risky. Or I could take chances at a younger age, and that's also very risky. There's no guaranteed outcome. For instance, when I moved here, I didn't even have a job lined up. I only knew one person and I only had $1,000. That's pretty risky, but I knew at a young age, regardless, if I went back home, I would still be in the same position. So the risk management is what I had to look at. Now, before we get too deep on risk, I want to give you guys some pointers from a book that I'm actually reading, and I'm going to share it on the screen right now. And it's just basically a business book that talks about how you can do better business, increase revenue, and stop overthinking things. But in this book, they have a chapter on risk, which is actually where I got the idea to make this video and relate it to how it's worked in my life and also make it seem less scary. In the book, though, they say that risk comes with 3 parts. You have to look at the actual risk itself, or what is the action that you're going to accomplish, and what are the risks involved. And like really write it out. Like write it down on paper. What is the risk that are involved that could actually happen? It can't be anything crazy like the sun falling out of the sky or like a crazy terrorist attack. Like what could actually go wrong, whether that is a move across state or starting a new business or taking on a new job, because not everybody's entrepreneurs, and that's totally fine. The second thing it said to look at is the cost. What is the actual dollar cost of the risk that you wrote down previously? So we have the risk and we have the cost. What is the cost of the risk, and what does that look like in a dollar amount? Is it something that you can recover from? And that brings me to my third point, the manageability of the risk. So now you know what the risk is, you've wrote it down, you have the cost of it, and now we need to look at how manageable is it. If things go completely crazy, right? And for me, it was like, if I give myself 6 months and I don't have a job, nothing's working out, I can always move back home. That's the manageable part of it, right? The cost that I'm losing is upwards of $1,000 to $2,000. And then the risk that was involved was I either stay in the same place and live there for the rest of my life, or I move here and I have all this upside and potential and possibility. Every situation and the risk is going to look different. I'm just sharing with you guys my personal situation because I think people really take home the message when they relate with the person. And I'm just a normal guy. I just kind of figured out these things in my life by taking a lot of risk. Now, this book really outlined 3 great parts to focus on, but for me, what I want to drive home with this video is risk management is probably the most important part and the only thing to me. I think we can bounce back from any situation. Like that's the beautiful part about being human, is we adapt our bodies, whether you eat bad and you gain weight or you work out and you get skinny. Our bodies just adapt to our environment. So if we're willing to take risk, there's a funny thing that's going to happen. Number one, the more risks that you take, it's going to get easier. Now, I'm not saying go out here and do something crazy, invest in a bad deal, or start a business that doesn't have any demand. Like you obviously need to do research and really think and write out the ideas that you have about the risks that you want to take. However, you also need to realize that it's not going to be nearly as scary as we want it to be. Our minds are constantly working from a place of protection, right? Like I said, fight or flight. So if we're comfortable, then there's no distress in the environment and things can keep moving along. Now, sometimes when you want to do something new, that's where the risk comes in and your mind starts thinking about all the bad. But sometimes we need to focus on all the good that could happen. And when I look back at my story, when I moved here, I was going to be a college kid and become a petroleum engineer. And now I'm a real estate entrepreneur. I create content for you guys, and then I get to flip houses. I was able to retire my wife. Like I'm slowly building wealth. I'm not rich yet, but I'm working on building wealth and working towards a bigger goal, and I'm excited about that. And that comes from taking so many different risks on a daily basis. But for me, how I like to look at risk is if you can recover or you end up in the same spot as you did before and you can go on about your life, then take the chance. Like, what are you going to lose? So many people scream you only live once, but they never actually take chances. And in reality, something that drives me is one day I'm going to die, and I don't want to regret anything in my life. See, we only get to live once, so I'm not going to let something small hold me back, like risk or the thought of failure. Now, the beautiful thing, like I said, is the more risks that you take, you grow a muscle, you get stronger, you work through it. Also, it needs to be very calculated. So this is my thought on risk. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure you check out some of my other content. If you want to see what it looks like to be a real estate entrepreneur, my day-to-day, I have a bunch of vlogs and tips on how to get started in real estate. Regardless, we're going to be dropping gems on this channel. So I hope you guys like this video. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and TikTok. Until next time, peace.